Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Four and Fuel podcast. We're here for episode 22. A lot to talk about today. A lot of silly season stuff announced over the past week. And we'll have at the second half of our show, part 2 of the War Zone. So, Wes, Steve, how's it going, guys?
It's going really good, man. Exhausted from all these hours at work, but it's worth it now and excited to be back and talking about the war room and make hopefully better predictions for the round of 12.
It'll be nice to have a little break right now from work as well, and get to sit back with you two and chat a little bit about what we got going on in the NASCAR world.
Yeah, it was my bad. I called it War Zone. We're not playing Call of Duty. It's the War Room in the second half of the episode.
Hey, we played
some of these
last
races, though, it feels like Warzone.
It pretty much is Warzone. I feel like we're in Verdansk every race.
Oh man, yeah, we if you guys don't know, we play some war zones from here and there, and sometimes we win and sometimes we finish 75th, so not too good most of the time.
Some
Hey,
days
ups
we're
and
Kevin Harvick
downs.
and some days we're Joey Gase.
Hey, Joey Gase won something. He won a local race
That's
the
right.
next day, and he called out Kyle Busch. He said, "At least I maneuver through the lap cars." But yeah, I don't know. We'll get into that a little bit later. But first, we're going to talk about what everyone's talking about in the NASCAR world is silly season. We're going to start with the biggest news. Obviously, we're going to go Denny Hamlin, Michael Jordan, forming a team and hiring Bubba Wallace to be their first driver on a multi-year deal. So we know this won't just be a one-and-done deal. We know Bubba will at least have multiple years to try to make some success for his name in that car and see if they could establish themselves as a top team in the sport. I've got to assume that it's going to be a Toyota. It's going to be with kind of a Joe Gibbs alliance, full Toyota. I feel like it'll be a decently competitive car. Could be another like 78 situation from Furniture Row Racing. Well, we'll just have to see next year, how it all goes down. But definitely interesting news to come out. This has been buzzing around a little bit, and everyone's been kind of shaking it off, really, dismissing the questions in, interviews and stuff. They were able to do that because everyone was assuming they were going to team up with the 43 and Richard Petty Motorsports, but that didn't happen. So they bought the charter from Germain Racing in the 13 team to allow themselves to be in the field next year. So, Wes, I'm interested to see, how do you think this all came together and how you think this is going to work for those guys?
I think it could work out pretty well, and I think for a lot of different reasons. I think the biggest is just looking at the two names that are involved. You've got Denny Hamlin, a very well-established NASCAR driver that has a lot of experience and still a pretty youthful guy. And with all things considered, he's still has a big career ahead of him, even though that he's already completed so many different years so far in the Cup Series. And then you've got a guy like Michael Jordan that's stepping in, a guy that's been around the scene of NASCAR for a while, that's been a fan for a long time. Take those both together. They both have a pretty well-established, I feel like, net worth. I feel like they're both, especially Michael Jordan, two veterans in their own respective sports in the world, and also two guys that have been involved in various business deals over the years. Combine all that, the fact that we have Denny Hamlin and Joe Gibbs, very familiar with Toyota, and if they are able to work out some kind of partnership with Toyota, and also with Bubba carrying a lot of good sponsorship behind him, and the fact that I feel like this will open up the door because you've got Bubba and then two guys that could definitely get some good sponsorships going for a ride. I think that this could lead to a very well-established team in the Cup Series. I think they did good with their signing. I think Bubba's been deserving of a step up for a while since he has completed so many different years now with Richard Petty Motorsports. And although the results haven't shown, he still has shown very well signs of being a contender to compete in top fives and top tens and get a win at some point in his career. We saw that in the Truck Series how good he was, and a little bit in the Xfinity, but I feel like he was held back in the years that he was there. So all things considered, taking all that together, I think that it could be a good opportunity for this team to just start off on a very strong note. And we'll have to find out when the season comes around. But I don't think it'll be smooth. I think there is definitely going to be things that, just like all teams that start off brand new, I don't think everything will go perfect. But I think that it could lead to a potential playoff appearance. So we'll have to see. But I definitely would consider this team to be a potential threat to kick things off on a high note.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Wes. I think it was a huge signing, and especially with Denny Hamlin, he's always been one of those drivers that voices his opinion, whether it's good or bad, and leading the drivers' council. He just seems like that guy that just knows. He just seems like the right fit to be the next owner, driver owner combination, if you could really call it that. So I think him paired with his good friend Michael Jordan, I think it's going to make for a great ownership combination. I do think it's going to be kind of like a Gibbs satellite team with Denny's relationship with Toyota and Joe Gibbs. I think they're going to get a lot of their equipment right from Gibbs. So I know NASCAR kind of frowned upon them really forming a fifth Gibbs car, but that's pretty much what the 95 is right now. And I think that this new car is basically going to replace what Levine Family Racing is stepping out of. So I think it was the right fit. I think Bubba Wallace is a great choice for it. And I do see him running well. Whether he gets a win in the first year with his team, that's yet to be kind of determined. But I do see him winning and getting a playoff spot in that car for multiple years, hopefully, and being a real threat for the championship.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see what Bubba can do in that car, who they hire on the team, what crew chief are they going to get for that car. And now with that forming, you got Bubba bringing a lot of sponsorship. So they're not going to have too many concerns when it comes to having sponsors to start off. And just right now, you got Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin. I think that's just enough to bring in sponsors alone. And then you bring in Bubba Wallace, who's been one of the biggest, leaders in the movement this year for NASCAR. And honestly, Bubba has brought in a lot of fans too. Just, you see all these sports figures from other sports. Like you've got LeBron James paying attention to NASCAR now because of Bubba Wallace. So NASCAR's, going up because of Bubba Wallace. And I think this only raises the impact of that. You get Michael Jordan involved in the NASCAR. You know how many people are going to start watching because he's an owner? That's just huge for the sport alone. And I think if that team has success, it'll be really nice. I just think this is a lot better because people were trying to compare this to when Troy Aikman and Roger Staubach made Hall of Fame racing with the 96 team, but it just never panned out. And I think that's just had a lot to do with they didn't have the driver. They didn't have the funding, the sponsorship really to back them up. And you didn't have guys that were really, invested in the sport. You've got Denny Hamlin, a driver, championship contender year in, year out. And you've got Michael Jordan, who's been a lifelong race fan, has been at the track many times. And just to do it with Denny Hamlin, a guy he supported. And I even saw on Twitter, Bubba Watson, PGA golfer, he wanted to get involved in this. And Denny Hamlin said, let's talk. So maybe you get Bubba Watson in on this, and then you bring in that golf crowd to tune into some races. This is got all written for a revolution for NASCAR to get the stands filled back up at these races again like they were in the mid 2000s.
And was it Bubba that reached out to Lewis Hamilton about maybe coming over and trying out a Cup Series ride for a race? So I think it's going to draw in a lot of maybe European Formula One fans. So this is getting a lot of like Jeff Gordon '90s vibes when NASCAR was kind of they were appealing to one set of fans, and then Jeff Gordon came in, and you had this new wave of fans coming in. I think this team, Bubba Wallace, Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin, I think this is like that next wave of attraction coming for NASCAR, and I think it can lead to really some great things.
Yeah, announced earlier in that day, really took the spotlight off of this guy, Ross Chastain. He was announced that morning that he was going to be the driver of the 42 next year for Chip Ganassi Racing. And, people kind of were surprised by this. With free agents sitting out there like Daniel Suarez and Eric Jones, people were thinking maybe Eric Jones would be a perfect fit for that 42 car. But it's Ross Chastain gets tapped for the ride. No wins this year for Ross Chastain in the Xfinity Series, but he does have the most top 10s in the series. He's come close to winning a few times, and he has that partnership with Chip Ganassi Racing. He's got a win in the 42 car in the Xfinity Series at Las Vegas. So I guess Chip was loyal with Ross and held his word, and now that ride is opened up, he's going to be that driver next year. So I'm curious as to how he's going to do in that car, whether he can get that 42 car back to where it was when Kyle Larson was in the car, because we just could tell Matt Kenseth just I like to blame practice a lot for it. Matt Kenseth's just stepping in, year and a half out of the car definitely doesn't help, and he's never raced his package while the rest of these guys have had a year of experience under the package. So not a lot with Matt Kenseth, or it could just really show how good Kyle Larson was putting that car in that top 10 every week. So I'm interested to see what Chastain could do in that car.
I think that he definitely could do a good bit with it. I think that the situation of the 42 right now, it might be a little bit of a slow start. Just as you mentioned, Kenseth really hasn't been able to perform as well as I don't want to say as well as we thought. I think that we thought he would run a little bit better, but kind of looking at all things considered, like you mentioned, the fact that this is a new aero package and he's stepping in practically blind while all these other guys, even the part-time guys, they've had more experience than Kenseth. Even guys that aren't even full-time that have raced one-offs they had more experience than Kenseth when he stepped in the ride. So I think for Ross Chastain, this will be a good opportunity. I think he's deserving of it after all the years that he spent kind of as a guy that really hasn't carried a lot of money into the sport, but he's just kind of done his own thing and was able to prove himself in performances back when he raced in smaller teams in the Xfinity Series and back when he was running part-time and full-time in the Truck Series. And now he's been able to perform fairly well, I would say, for Kaulig equipment. I know Kaulig's not really the most powerful team in the world, but they've got a really good bond there that I feel like has really assisted their team this year in comparison to previous years. Like you mentioned, a lot of top tens, has contended for wins. Even though he hasn't got one, he still has always put himself in the positions he needs to run well and be consistent. And I think consistency is key, and I feel like that could definitely help him, especially for an I wouldn't say over aggressive driver, but a really aggressive driver. I think that is something that Chip Ganassi saw and liked. And similar, I feel like, to Kyle Larson, a guy that's really aggressive, likes to get at it, really hard behind the wheel. It might have similar qualities there. So I feel like Ross might be a pretty good fit for the 42. He's stepping in there with a good teammate too, a veteran in Kurt Busch. Of course, his contract's running out, I believe, next year at the end of 2021. But I think that dynamic there, having a guy like Kurt, and then also a very seasoned veteran owner in Chip Ganassi, I think that's going to be a really just a beneficial thing for him to do. And just stepping in there, I think that he's going to have a good, hopefully a good first year.
Yeah, no, with Chip Ganassi, like you said, very experienced owner, definitely knows what he's doing. He's definitely, I think, had this ready for a little while, just was waiting for the right time to get this news out. Apparently Ross didn't even know about it until like the day before they announced it. So maybe he was just trying to wait until, I guess, right before the playoffs. I don't know. I guess it was a really quick deal because if Ross was known the day before, I don't think Ross hesitated at all to sign the contract. So I think they'll definitely do better than people will expect. Whether they make the playoffs or not, that could be a stretch, but you never know with that team. You never know with Ross Chastain. He's got some talent at the super speedways, especially. Maybe he gets a win there. And he's pretty consistent. He's one of those all-around drivers where he's kind of good at any type of track. So at least in the Xfinity series he has. So I don't know. Chastain, I think he can make the playoffs. I don't think it's out of reach, but it's definitely not something that should be expected from him. So with other silly season news, there hasn't been really anything announced, like officially, but there has been some rumors thrown out this past week. I know, Steve, you said you saw something with the 96 team and Gaunt Brothers.
Yeah, I can't remember where exactly I saw it, but it's when I was just scrolling through Twitter one day and I saw that possibly Brandon Jones stepping up to the Cup Series in the 96 car with Daniel Suarez not coming back there. This would be a chance for Brandon Jones to step up to a Toyota team with, I'm not sure how much Gibbs backing they have, but some Toyota backing, bring sponsorship with him. So this could be his chance to step up now that he's kind of had multiple years in the Xfinity Series, has proven himself finally as a winner, and not just a fluke winner. So I think it could be a good chance for Brandon Jones. It's kind of limited spacing. There's not many cars that are open in the Cup Series. So, it's kind of one of those things if Gibbs offers him another year in the Xfinity Series, or if the 96 is open and they're offering him a spot, I think he kind of has a decision to make there if he feels like he's ready. I definitely feel like we could see Brandon Jones in the 96 car. Whether, I think realistically they'd be contending for top 20s at that point instead of wins. So, but I definitely feel like that spot can open up for him or some other Toyota driver.
Hey, you got a lot of sponsorship from Brandon Jones. He was really the reason they were able to fund Christopher Bell, with Ream and everything. And they have the Menard sponsorship that they'd be able to put on that car. I wonder if that'd be interesting to see if they put Menards on 3 different cars in the Cup Series with the 12, 21, and 96. Yet we don't know the deal is with the 21 yet. But I've been on this page on Twitter. It's NASCAR Rumor Mill at NASCAR or at Mill NASCAR. So if you guys want to check that page out, I have their Twitter, notifications on for every time they post, because they've been posting a lot of accurate rumors that end up being true. And so they have they've tweeted that still going to hear Larson to the 48 next year. We talked about that last week. Wes and I did. Then you've got Ty Dillon emerging as the favorite for the 43 car, which again has Richard Childress affiliation with that car. So it almost makes a lot of sense, as Ty won't be racing for Germain anymore, to move into the 43, because I don't know if RCR is ready for a third car yet. They're just getting their feet wet with 2 cars being competitive. I don't know if adding a third car would really help them at all. So if they can get Ty in the 43, I think that would really help them. And then we're hearing that Ryan Preece, who many thought was going to get the can this season after poor runnings, 30th in points, just got his first top 10 this past week at Bristol with a 9th. We heard that he is going to stay now in the 37 car for next year. So, Wes, I think you're adamant about Ryan Preece staying in the 37. I think you're very adamant about that one.
I don't know if that's the best move for JTG. I don't really have any hard feelings towards Preece, but he just has not lived up to the expectations that we thought he would. And we would have expected a better season compared to the season that he had last. But this is, I'm pretty certain, an even worse season than what he had in his first full-time rookie year. So it just doesn't seem like things have really fit out for him behind the wheel of that car. And it just makes me wonder, how are they going to step up? Are they going to make any changes for next year? Because if they don't, I feel like we're going to see a lot of the same performance that we've seen this year, and it's not going to be a good look for the team. So um, they just need to make changes if they want to make any kind of improvements. But I feel like with him staying, that's going to shuffle up a lot of what we see with the signings that continue the rest of this year. It puts a guy like Corey LaJoy in a bad place because a lot of people thought, and it seemed like he was going to be the favorite if Priest didn't return to go to the 37. That could have been his new home. But now with him leaving the 32 car and also with that car in the 37 getting taken, Corey LaJoy is not really in a good spot to get a ride for this year because there are so many other drivers that seem to be the bigger favorites for other teams. So a guy like LaJoy, who is a very good racer but just doesn't really have the financial backing, it's going to put him in a little bit of trouble finding a ride for the next season. So, and unfortunately, that's just the name of the game these days. If you don't really have the backing either financially or by a manufacturer, or if you don't really have that alliance with the team, a good partnership, it just puts you in a bad spot. So for LaJoy and even maybe Matt DiBenedetto, we don't know what's going to happen with him next year. And hopefully he stays with the 21. That's kind of what it's looking like. But if you were to put an Austin Cindric in the 21, it puts DiBenedetto in a bad spot. We've talked about Eric Jones, a guy that really doesn't have a whole lot. He's got more than the guys I just mentioned, but doesn't have the financial backing that some of these other guys have. So it puts these guys in bad spots. So we'll have to see. It's interesting where we are right now with the playoffs coming up, but also the next season with silly season that we're going to have. So we'll have to see kind of how everything kind of plays out and shakes out with these the rest of these silly season signings as we get closer to the end of the year. And also what drivers I wonder if there's any drivers that we've talked about that or that we haven't talked about that might have an opportunity to step up out of the blue. So we'll have to just wait and see.
Yeah, this page, NASCAR Rumorville, also states that they believe Austin Cindric and Chase Briscoe are likely to stay in the Xfinity Series one more year, and that Matt DiBenedetto is likely to re-sign with the Wood Brothers for another year. But they also put it that in 12 months they're going to be in the same situation. You know, at some point they're going to have to make some moves that's going to cut some people out and to make room for Cindric and Briscoe. So it's a lot of it's based off money. And right now, if you're looking at money, Austin Cindric's got the money. So that could play a big role into who's in, who's out. I think Matty D does deserve one more season in that car. He had a great first half of the season. Second half, not so much, but it'll be interesting to see if they could put a full season together next year if he stays in that 21. And then outside of that, we brought up Eric Jones and Corey LaJoy. Honestly, for Corey LaJoy, I think the best thing for him now is to maybe try to find a competitive Xfinity ride. Maybe that ride, maybe he gets a ride at Richard Childress Racing next year in the Xfinity Series. I feel like if he gets an offer like that, he's got to take it. He'll definitely have better chance of proving himself there than something, underfunded in the Cup Series. Like if he tried a Rick Ware racing ride, definitely not worth it. So same with Eric Jones. People don't bring up the Xfinity ride for him, but maybe if he gets in a competitive Xfinity ride, maybe he tries to go win a championship there, make up for that one he didn't win back in 2016. So a lot of options for these guys. And maybe Eric Jones goes to the 32 if they have an alliance with Stewart-Haas Racing. Maybe that puts Eric Jones on the path to replace an Almirola or a Clint Bowyer in 2022. So, a lot of things that still need to be figured out. And the next week or so is going to be very interesting. So I don't think we're done with news, silly season news anytime soon. We could still be talking about this stuff in January. It's just this nature of it all. So it'll be interesting to see. So with that, we'll get off the silly season stuff and we'll talk about the now. And that is enter the war room, not the war zone, the war room. And we're going to break down this round of 12. The round of 12, many have considered as the wild card round because of the tracks that are involved. You've got the normal mile and a half at Las Vegas. Then the second race, you have Talladega, and then to round out the round, you have the Charlotte Roval. And we've seen how crazy the Roval has been these last 2 years. So it's only promised to be crazier because of it being an elimination race and it being the round of 8 at stake and not the round of 12 like it has been in the past. So you're going to be seeing more competitive guys that could be championship favorites in trouble at the Roval as compared to maybe Ryan Newman and Eric Almirola battling for the final spot. We could be seeing Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski or Logano battling for the final spot in the final laps at the Roval, and who knows what these guys will do. So I want to do the same thing we did the first round. I'm just going to list a driver, and if we're going to say if they're in or out. So the top guys like Harvick, I think Harvick, we could all agree we're going to move him on to the round of 8. Denny Hamlin, I think we can move him to the round of 8. Brad Keselowski, I think we can move Brad Keselowski to the round of 8. I think he's been really strong.
Yeah, I think he's solid enough to. I think he's got enough of a cushion that he could afford one bad race and still move on.
And I'm in the same boat. I think that Talladega is the bigger wild card, even the Roval a little bit, but he doesn't run too bad there. So I think that I do think he's going to move on.
All right, so we've got 3 guys. So Joey Logano. Joey Logano sits 17 points to the good right now over Almirola in 9th. Is Joey Logano safe to get into the next round?
I would say, yeah, I'd move Joey Logano in. He won at Vegas earlier this year and has won a couple times at Talladega. And then you have the Roval, which is always kind of a wild card. So, and of course, ever since we came back from COVID, Logano has not been the same guy that we saw in the first 4 weeks. But I'd still say that these Vegas and Talladega, I think the Penske guys always work really good together at Talladega. And Joey Logano's always done really well at Vegas. He seems to kind of figure that track out. So I'd say Logano's in a good enough position that I'd move him over to the round of 8.
I'm in the same boat. He always puts himself, especially at Talladega, in good positions to get stage points or even a stage win. And I feel like that's what you have to do when you get there because the wreck is pretty much inevitable. It's going to happen at some point, and you may or may not get in it. Like we saw with William Byron, he got through, missed all the big wrecks somehow, and was able to win the race. So if Joe Logano can just get the stage points like he does and is able to still just stay headset on doing very, very well and just being able to push himself, he's going to be able to get to the next round pretty easily. So I think Logano's in.
All right, so 4 out of the 8 we've got. Now we move to 5th, Chase Elliott. I think we could. I don't know. I just think the Roval being in there is just
the Roval and Talladega. Those are 2 tracks that he can win at. Vegas is a little bit of a struggle still for Chase, but with Dega and the Roval being in there, I'd say it's a pretty good lock to put into the round of 8.
Yeah, anything can happen, but I feel like not just to go with favorites all the time, but I feel like Chase, especially at the Roval, I think that he can definitely put himself in positions to win. Same with Talladega. So I do think that Chase is going to be able to go through.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's touched Chase Elliott the last couple of years. The only person that's going to stop Chase Elliott at the Roval is himself. That the 9 team or himself is going to be the ones that stop him at the Roval. No one's touched him or been able to really compete with him once he gets out front. So Chase Elliott, even if he could be 50 points out going into the Roval, and I'll still pick him to win that race to move on. So Chase Elliott in. So now we get to Martin Truex Jr., who is 11 points above the cut line.
Yeah, this is where it gets a little tough. I'm still going to put Truex into the round of 8 just because Vegas is the first track. He's had a lot of success recently at Vegas, a couple wins there, even the playoff race at Vegas this last year. Talladega is kind of hit or miss because you either see Truex run 25th all day and he's never a factor, or he's running second and has a chance to win on the last lap and then gets passed for the win. So you never know what you're going to get with Truex at a plate track. And then the Roval almost won in 2018, and then Johnson took them both out. So, Yeah, I'd still put Truex in because I can't imagine the playoffs now without Truex being a threat for the championship. So I'd put Truex into the round of 8.
Yeah, I'm gonna put him in as well. I feel like just at the Roval, he's gonna be able to perform well, get stage points. Uh, it's a little worrisome, but I feel like the consistency that we've seen out of Truex the second half of the year, aside from Bristol, has just been on another level compared to almost anybody. I mean, he's like the only guy that's been able to actually run top 3 every single week, except for Kevin Harvick. Him and Kevin Harvick, I feel like a little bit of Hamlin too, but Harvick and Truex, it felt like almost every single week we saw them in the top 3. So I wouldn't. I just hope Truex doesn't get in too much over his head, and I don't think he will. I think that he's very determined to get back and be able to get the championship because he had missed out last year. So I do think Truex will be able to make it to the round of 8.
Yeah, I'm going Truex in. Truex, outside of Talladega, has been really good at the Roval and Vegas, and Talladega could really go either way. It doesn't miss. His luck has been awful there. Whether he runs up front or hangs in the back, he seems to get caught up in a wreck. I think he even said at Daytona they're done with that mentality of staying in the back because they end up getting wrecked anyway. Might as well race up front and get wrecked. So Truex, I think he'll make it. Now I'll change up how we do this because we've got 6 guys in already. We need to narrow it down to 2 more. So 6 guys fighting for 2 spots. Steve, who are your 2 remaining guys that you think will move on through out of Alex Bowman, Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch, Eric Almirola, Clint Boyer, and Kurt Busch?
Let's see. My 2 guys I think are going to move on to the round of 8. I'm going to go Alex Bowman with 1. And my other, this gets tough because my gut is telling me to go Kyle Busch. How can you bet against Kyle Busch? But
But Kyle Busch said he's getting eliminated. Kyle Busch
he's
already
getting
told you
yeah.
he's getting eliminated.
he's going to make sure he gets eliminated. And I just feel like something's going to go wrong at Vegas. He's going to get in the big one at Talladega, and he's not a factor at the Roval. So I do think Kyle Busch will get eliminated. I'm going to go Bowman, and I'm going to go out on a real stretch. I'm going Kurt Busch into the round of 8. Kurt's going to be running top 10. He's going to get solid top 10 at Vegas. He's going to be running up front at Dega. And I feel like he's going to get just enough points to transfer into Charlotte after the Roval. And then with Bowman, we saw him almost win the spring race at Vegas. Him and Chase Elliott always run really well at Talladega together. And then Alex Bowman finished second at the Roval last year behind Chase Elliott. So this is a really good round for Bowman to put together some solid finishes to solidify his spot into the round of 8. So I have Bowman and Kurt Busch going on to the round of 8.
Those are good picks. I'll start off with Kyle Busch. Not saying that he's going through. I don't like where his headset is. It's hard to say that you're going to pick a driver to go through to the next round when they're specifically saying that they will not make the playoffs or not advance into the next round. It's really how can you have confidence in somebody?
But are we looking
say
at?
something like that?
Are we looking at a Tony Stewart 2011 situation where Tony Stewart said we don't even deserve to be here, and then he just goes on a tear?
Man,
Yeah, but
but
Kyle
he
Busch is
didn't
still
say he was going to win the championship, so that's why I'm a little worried. Kyle Busch is just saying he's not even going to make it to the next round.
Yeah, we saw Kyle Busch run second at Bristol, but that's Bristol. That's Kyle's playground.
Right.
Other than that,
But I mean, Kyle's a lap car away from winning that race.
Man,
yeah,
I mean, is he saying something different if he wins that race? Is he saying now we're on it and we're gonna be championship contenders?
no, I still think if Kyle wins that race,
I mean, I don't think he's definitely not saying we're getting eliminated in the round of 12 if he wins that race.
Yeah, I still don't see enough out of Kyle Busch to even if he does win that race. No, I still wouldn't even put him as a championship threat, honestly.
I'm just worried about his headset because I feel like that's not – it's just still hard to have confidence in somebody that talks like that. he could definitely show up, and he can, like he did at Bristol, but it's a little, I feel like, just uncertainty. We can't have every single favorite go through. That's not how it's going to work. It's just, we got lucky last year with the Final Four. The four that deserved to go to the Final Four were the four that made it. But not every favorite's probably going to make it into the round of 8, and not every favorite, like we saw with, I feel like, Byron and Blaney, neither made it into the round of 12. So my first pick, I'll start with my first pick. Funny enough, the guy I had going out in the first round, I'm picking Bowman. I wouldn't have picked him, but this round, like Steven was mentioning, is just a really good round for Bowman. These tracks, I feel like he could fare very well out as long as he puts himself in the right positions. And this, so far in the playoffs, he's excelled. He's looked really, really good compared to how he looked over the course of the summer, where he just did not have the speed. So I feel like the team has definitely stepped up for the playoffs. It's kind of similar to like Austin Dillon. And the second driver I have going through, kind of like Steven, going on a limb, but I'm going with my man, Clint Boyer. I look at these tracks, and I know Vegas isn't the strongest for him, but at Talladega, I feel like the smartest team, the one that plays smartest. I'm not saying they get the performances like the Penske's, but the smartest team always seems to be Stuart Haas. They all work together very well. They put themselves in the back where they need to be, or they put themselves all together in the front where they need to be. Just their ability to work together, I feel like, is the best. And if they can do that like they've done in the past, they can definitely put themselves in a good position to miss the big ones if they stay in the back, or go up there and get stage points and be the top 4 on the track. So not only that, but the Roval, if you look at Clint Boyer, they've done 2 races so far at the Roval. He's finished top 5 in every stage, so 4 stages, and in both races. So I'm thinking that we're going to see him in a position to where he's outside, but he does very well at the Roval to where he gets another top 5, because he's one of the only, I think, 2 or 3 to finish top 5 in each race, but also just go out there and finish top 5 in each stage. And if he can do it like he's done the past 2 races, I mean, it seems like the Roval is something Boyer's exceptionally well at. I think that he could definitely be outside looking in, and I think he can get it done, because the Roval seems to be his best track maybe right now to even have a chance to win at until we get to the closing season. So I'm a little biased, but also I just see where Boyer does very well, and I think the Roval is going to be a place that we see him sneak his way in there and get to the round of 8 and bank off other people's problems. So, and also, I don't think Austin Dillon and Eric Almirola, I don't think they're going to do bad, but the Roval is going to be something that they struggle with. Road courses aren't their thing. Kurt Busch is consistent, but just doesn't get those stage points, so that's kind of why I leaned away from them. So those are my 2 going through.
Man, I can't believe not one of you picked Kyle Busch. That is mind-boggling. And I would pick Kyle Busch, but if I pick Kyle Busch, then we have 3 different guys, and there's just no way to – we'd be here all night trying to figure out which one of those 3 would get in. So we've got Alex Bowman definitely locked in. And for the sake of, not being here all night, I'm going to – you can put me between Clint Boyer and Kurt Busch. I got to link Clint Boyer. Just the tracks for Clint Boyer, I think Clint definitely – Vegas, if he can get through there and he leaves there within a single-digit deficit, I think he's in a good spot, because at Talladega, Clint Boyer is really good at the super speedways. Clint Boyer has wins there. So Clint Boyer, got to look at him, working with his teammates. And as long as Almirola doesn't steal the win from him, I think Clint Boyer could be in a good spot. And then, like Wes brought up, Clint Boyer, no one talks about Clint Boyer when it goes to the Roval, and he's got top 5s in every stage ever there. So Clint Boyer, he's going to make a lot of points up there. And if he's within, 10 points, I think going to the Roval, he's got to be, in a good spot there. And I talk about Clint Boyer, and Wes has blown up.
Disconnected.
So we'll see if he, comes back in. But right now, I mean, you look at Clint Boyer. Clint Boyer's the man. I think Clint Boyer, he's raced for his career at this point.
Yeah. It's all going to be about Vegas, really. If Clint Boyer can get through Vegas with a good run, and that team's not been the greatest at Vegas. But I think if they can get some stage points, even a couple. Even if they get a sixth, seventh, eighth place finish in both stages, make up those couple points on guys that aren't either miss a strategy or have problems early. Make up those couple points early. You don't have to shoot for winning the stage every time, but just a couple here and there goes really a long ways, because we've seen cutoff races come down to tiebreakers. So just start aiming for top tens, and if you can get out of Vegas with a good top 10 and you go into Talladega, we're going to see pretty much the teams run together. We're going to see Hendrick versus Gibbs versus Stewart-Haas versus Penske. And, we saw it a couple of years ago where Stewart-Haas was literally 1 through 4 the entire race, all the way down to the end. And I think that Talladega is going to be another one of those kind of races.
Yeah, especially stage points now. You have to get stage points. You can't ride in the back if you're in the playoffs, because there's 20 points sitting there. You can't pass up on those, because at least if you were to win both stages, you're at least guaranteed 20 points. Say you then get collected in a wreck, you finish 25th. You technically just scored 5th place points for the day.
Yep.
So that's why it's so important to race for these stage points, and that's why you see a lot of wrecks coming to the end of these stages, because everyone's going crazy for every point.
Absolutely. And I wish Talladega was still a cutoff race, because that just makes everything so much more exciting, because you're in those, cutoff positions. So, yeah, I think we're going to come down to the end of the stage. There's going to be at least one big one towards the end of the stage. And it could wipe out some of these guys. It could wipe out a Martin Truex and then put them in a must-win for the Roval. So I think everyone from about Chase Elliott down is vulnerable for one of those scenarios to happen. So we're going to see some guys kind of playing it safe, might not go for the stage win at Talladega, or we're going to see, guys like Clint Bowyer, Kurt Busch, Eric Almirola. They're going to be Austin Dillon. Even he makes those wild moves at the plate tracks. So you have so many guys on so many different strategies, and then you have the Brendan Gaughan's out there that they don't even care about points. They just want to get a good finish and go for the win. And that's what makes these plate tracks so much fun to watch.
In the last few years, the fall Talladega race has been crazy. We have like 3 or 4 big ones in the race, and it just keeps going on at the end. They just keep wrecking. Pushing gets more, I almost feel like the big ones are more, you're more vulnerable to those at Talladega, because the drivers think they have more room. They think they can push harder because they've got the room. But I almost feel like at Daytona, since it's so narrow, you can only go 3 wide. So the drivers are kind of, locked into where they are. And on the straightaways is where the wrecks usually happen, because that's where the cars are at their lightest. At least when you have the banking, your cars are more in control and more stable to where they are. Once you're on that straightaway, you get one bad push and you're going around. I mean, there's just nothing you could do to save it either, because we've seen it, how many times, Kyle Busch last year they were 3 wide for the lead. Kyle Busch in the middle of 3 wide going into turn 3 gets one bad push, and Brendan Gaughan's flipping through the air.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be the biggest thing is, who's going to get the bad push, or who's going to throw the bad block, and then it's going to cause a huge chain reaction. Playoff guys are going to be involved. I'm curious to see how many guys are going into the Roval in a must-win. And then I'm also curious as to who's going to have the annual flip at Talladega this year, because it's bound to happen every year.
Yeah, we have not had a flip yet this season. So, and in a season like 2020, I mean, you can only imagine.
You could count. I don't know would you count Ryan Newman's in the Daytona 500?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I kind of, I kind of forgot about that. Feels like that was years ago at this point.
I know.
But NBC will make sure everybody remembers that. They will make sure every time Ryan Newman is focused, they will talk about remember Ryan Newman started this year at a super speedway upside down in the air,
Yeah, how many times are we going to see that played that weekend?
or just in the promo commercials
Yeah,
for it. So, oh man, and then to go into the Roval in a must win, I'd rather be in a must win going to Talladega than the Roval, because the Roval you really can't control anything. Not like you can at Talladega either, but I feel like at Talladega, if you're seventh on the last lap, you still got a chance to win. Look at Eric Jones in the spring race at Talladega.
right.
He was nowhere even near the front coming to the white flag. And if it wasn't for contact with Ryan Blaney, he probably wins the race.
Yep. And could you imagine like how much more exciting Talladega could get if you just flip-flopped and you did the Vegas race and then you did the Roval, and then if guys had bad finishes there and go into Talladega in a must-win, what those last couple laps would be.
Yeah.
We saw that at the beginning when this whole new format was implemented. They made Talladega a cutoff race, and just the intensity of that racing in the last couple laps, I feel like anybody could watch that, whether you were a NASCAR fan or not, and be like, this is exciting. So I hope NASCAR for the future realizes that Talladega needs to be a cutoff race, because with it being such a wild card, and you have a bad race in the first and second race in that round, you could still go into Talladega with a chance to move on to the round of 8.
Yeah, and if I recall, the first year of this elimination format, 2014, we had at Talladega, it was the cutoff for the second round. And coming off turn 4 on the last lap, Casey Kane was in the round of 8 while Jeff Gordon was out. From turn 4 to the checkered flag, Casey Kane lost about 4 or 5 spots, and that propelled Jeff Gordon into the round of 8.
Yep.
So that's how crazy things can happen. And it would be cooler to see those, position changes on the last lap matter right then and there, than be like after the Roval, if say Kyle Busch misses it by 2 points and he lost 5 spots on the last lap, be like, go back to Talladega and be like, well, if Kyle Busch didn't lose 5 spots on the last lap of Talladega, he'd be in right now.
Yeah, exactly. And the Roval isn't, oh, hey, Wes is back.
We're live.
Yeah.
Slowest reboot since maybe 1999 for a computer, but we made it.
We were just talking about we're hoping NASCAR moves Talladega back to a cutoff race, because I feel like the Roval isn't a strong suit for everybody. Road courses aren't everyone's thing. So you get like an Eric Almirola going into the Roval in a must-win.
It's probably not
He's
going to do it.
Probably not going to do it. You put Eric Almirola in a must-win at Talladega, he can probably do it. So
No, that's a good thought, because I feel like what we saw with Daytona, we saw a lot more drivers hungry to win, even just simply because of the placement of the race.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that placement, I feel like they don't really go in with the exact same mindset that they would if it's at like a July, like when they used to do it in July. It's just not really the same, I guess, environment. So I agree with you on that. I think that they should have it as the cutoff race, not so much the Roval. Even though the Roval has been very entertaining, and it has been these past couple races, I mean, Talladega can be just as entertaining, if not more, because of that unpredictability factor. Those drivers going in with a more desperate need to win, because, like you said, we're not going to see Almirola. Nothing against him, but I don't think we're going to go out there and see him get a win at the Roval if he's in a must-win. So he's got to put himself in positions early, like these first couple races to do that, to be able to get the win. But I feel like that last race, if it is the last race, that's what you strive for the most. So
yeah, just very interesting points. We'll definitely have to see next year if they change it back to a elimination race. That's if Talladega's still in the playoffs. I'm sure it will be. No reason to take it out. And one quick thing with that, talking about the schedule, there's actually going to be 4 new racetracks on the Cup Series schedule, apparently. I've heard rumors. 2 of those being Circuit of the Americas. And there's another track.
We have Nashville.
Nashville, that's right. So you got Nashville and Circuit of the Americas. And then other guesses, maybe Iowa and Road America. I've seen some talks about those tracks, unless we've got another track that's, just looming in the air that we haven't been announced to yet. So
wasn't there some rumors of Iowa just not hosting NASCAR races across the board? I thought I remember seeing that Iowa was talking about not even hosting NASCAR races anymore. Or maybe I was completely off on that, but I thought I remember seeing something like that.
I don't recall ever seeing that, but I mean,
did Penske buy Iowa, or is that still owned by Rusty Wallace?
I still think that's a Rusty Wallace thing.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if they would count the Indy road course as a new track. I don't know if they're counting new track as just a new layout or a new facility.
Right, and that's what we heard with Bristol too, because there was a rumor with Adam Stearns saying that these stakeholders were interested in turning Bristol back into a dirt track, kind of like what they did with World of Outlaws back in the day. And I don't that's not a new track, but it is a new track layout. So in a way, that would be something that could be another possibility. Granted, maybe that's later in the future, but you never know. There's 2 tracks, like you said, that haven't been announced. So I think it's going to be a good for the Cup Series, especially because I just like seeing a variety of different tracks. It's not really, I don't think, the most entertaining to go back to the same track twice in a season, even if it's a track I love, because I'd rather see them try something else new, because we go to that same track and see the same, product or almost the same outcome as we did in the first race. So it's I think it'll be a nice new change, especially seeing them, because we haven't had a lot of new tracks recently in the past few years. I feel like the only track we've seen that's been added was the Roval, and that was already at Charlotte. So a new layout, but it's nice to have a new little change for the first time in a long while, especially with these many new tracks being added at once.
Yeah, and you get that Circuit of the Americas deal that includes taking away one of the Texas points races, but then you make Texas the all-star race, which...
That's going to be terrible. That is going to be such a terrible all-star race.
They better just throw some, stupid package together for that one. They might as well just throw, give them the 1970, give them the King spoiler where it's 10 feet in the air, the wing on the back, and do something stupid. Or debut the new package, or debut what you have with the Gen 7 car in that race. There's no way you can have an all-star race at Texas with the current package. If they don't try anything new in that race, it'd be a huge flaw, and I doubt anybody outside of the Texas area goes to that race.
Yeah. I still think the Indy road course was pretty fun to watch, but I'm still an advocate for bringing the Xfinity and Truck series back to IRP.
Mm-hmm.
I think they made a huge mistake going away from that track. And even if you start with just Truck series, you have a triple header weekend. You have the Xfinity doing the road course. You have the Cup Series doing the oval. And then you have the trucks doing IRP. I think that would make for a great weekend. And I think NASCAR, they did. I think going to the road course format was pretty exciting. I think that's kind of a breath of fresh air for Indianapolis, because we've seen just in years past the oval just be so boring now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think bringing back IRP, I'm still a big advocate for that.
Yeah, Goodyear's made sure to keep the oval exciting by bringing their worst possible tires, but
That's right.
That's about it. So it'll be interesting to see what they do next year with the schedule. I'm so excited to see the schedule, because this is going to be the biggest change of a schedule since God only knows when. It's been years since we had a major schedule, change up. So all we know, really, Daytona 500 is the first race, and Phoenix is going to be the last race. That's all we really know. And we know Nashville is going to be in June at some point. So other than that, we really don't know what's coming. I think Auto Club, they release their dates. It's going to be like the third week of the season again. So I think they might just keep the West Coast swing, at the beginning of the season after Daytona. But other than that, we really don't know when, where, and how many races, tracks are going to get. So this leads us to our race picks for this weekend at Las Vegas. You're going to see a Sunday night race that should transition from day to night. Last year's winner, Martin Truex Jr. And since I picked Brad Keselowski, who decided to, not win this week because I picked him, I'm thinking I'm going to change stables. And I'm going Martin Truex Jr. to go back-to-back at Las Vegas. I think Truex knows he has to win this week. I think Truex knows that Talladega is not good to him. And the Roval, he's going to be good there. But does he have the speed to beat Chase Elliott? We don't know. So I think Truex knows that his only safe way in is to win at Las Vegas, a track he's won at before. So Martin Truex Jr., this is going to be his must-win race, and he's going to get it done. Steve?
Unbelievable. Well, got to go to plan B now because I just somehow knew Dom's going to pick Truex.
Hey, I left you Harvick.
Yep, and that's who I'm going to go with. He's going to get his 9th win of the year. I have to get.
He already got 9. He got 9 at
Bristol.
Bristol.
He already got 9. Okay, yep, you're right. So 10. We'll just make it an even 10.
We haven't seen somebody win 10 since some loser in the 48 back in 2007.
7 championships speaks for itself, though. So I'm gonna go Harvick. He'll get that even 10th win, and I just need to get back on the board. I've had a rough couple weeks.
You're beating all of us. You don't need to get back on the board.
I need to get back on the board. I need to get rolling again.
That's like saying Kevin Harvick's a must-win this weekend.
I mean, he basically is. He's not locked into the round of 8 yet.
I know. He's only 60-something points to the good. Poor guy.
Yeah.
Poor guy's only 62 points above the cut line. What will he ever do? He could sit out a race and he'd still be in.
Yep, but he's not secured yet. Anything can happen. So he needs to have that assurance. So Harvick's winning Sunday.
Well, I think there's a lot of guys due for a win. I think that Kyle Busch is due for a win, of course, still. I think Ryan Blaney's due for a win at some point. I think Truex is due for a win. But I'm going to go with a guy that's definitely due for a win, that's in the playoffs right now. Hasn't won since the beginning of the year. That's Joey Logano. He was able to get it done earlier in the year, but this is a track he's always – every single time they've gone to Vegas, he's been a contender, especially in the past, 4 or 5 years. So I think Logano's going to go out there and just be able to get the job done. I feel like that's going to be what punches his ticket into the next round. I don't know if it's going to be kind of the Harvick Hamlin show like we've seen most of the year.
I can assure you Denny Hamlin will probably not be anywhere near the front this week.
This is not going to be Hamlin's week to be contending for a win or maybe even a top 10.
He definitely wasn't in the spring. He did not finish in the points. I even wrote an article, that's coming out this week that Denny Hamlin could be in danger this round because of the tracks. Because Denny Hamlin has only gotten in the 8 total stages. He's only scored stage points. There's been 12 total stages at Las Vegas. He's only scored stage points 3 times.
Wow. And even for the year that he's had, to just that's like the one race he didn't really show up at all.
Yeah.
It wasn't even nearly
in Kentucky,
a factor.
were the 2 races they did not show up.
Yeah.
Well, Martinsville too, but
yeah, so I feel like it's going to come down to it could come down to Harvick, but I think that Joey Logano and Penske, I feel like having one of the drivers eliminated, a guy that's shown really good speed this year, I think that they're going to step it up. I think that they're going to be in a position where they know they lost one of their guys and they just need to go out there and perform. So I think it might come down to Keselowski and Logano, but I'm going to go Joey Logano in this case.
I thought you were going to take a chance on Aric Almirola.
Man, he's due for a win too. Poor guy. He's come close a few times this year, a few times last year, and a lot in 2018. Even though he got a win in 2018, he should have won. There were like 5 races he had a chance to win. But late cautions screwed that up. But yeah, Almirola's due for a win too. Man, it's been, I guess, a long time. But hey, Talladega's this round. We gotta wait another week, and then maybe I'll keep Almirola
Your buddy Boyer's due for a win here soon too.
Yeah, we got to see Boyer getting that get a dub. He might bring it home in Talladega if he's ahead of Almirola. That is.
Like I said, Boyer's racing for his career, so I mean, to somebody motivated, and it's definitely Clint Boyer, because that Fox Booth might be calling if he doesn't pick it up and get into this round of 8. So be interesting to see what happens this week. It's going to be a crazy race just because people know this is the one race they could really, take advantage of and try to control their own fate. So it'd be fun to see. Next week we'll be talking about this race. We'll be talking about Talladega, talking about any more silly season news that comes out between now and next week. But all of that and more really coming up on the Foreign Field podcast. Still got some work on some guests lined up here, in the near future. Hopefully we get it going here, and we'll get some more guests for you guys. If you guys are watching and you want a guest that you'd like to see on the show, definitely let us know, and we'll definitely try our best to get them. But other than that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.